Our campaign is different in a bunch of different ways. Let me just start there. I'd like to say there's three things that are important and different about my campaign versus the other five. Number one is that it's about political reform to the entire system here in New Jersey. And I'll talk about that for a moment. It's about policy and substance. So more detail around what I'm going to do to change New Jersey. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, not anticipated, but we're in a moment in time where you have a president that is clearly attacking a lot of the rights that we feel need to be protected, and clear answers and a vision about how we could stand up in this moment beyond just saying we're going to fight Trump and we're going to fight Musk. Here are the actionable steps. And those three things are different than anybody else. When I tell you that the political establishment was against me in 2013, I'm not doing justice to that statement. I'm really not. I mean, of course, you had all of Jersey City against us, the political establishment. You had all of the Hudson County political establishment. You had every statewide person of note. I mean, Cory Booker felt the need to cut a commercial against me. Mayor Bloomberg, who was the mayor of New York City at the time, felt the need to cut a commercial. And it was one of two races in the country that President Obama, then sitting President Obama, felt the need to engage in directly. He got engaged in Rahm Emanuel running for the mayor of Chicago and Jeremiah Healy running for mayor of Jersey City. We won that race, and I'm the first three-term elected mayor in 75 years in that city. The largest microtransit system in the country now, was started under our administration in Jersey City when New Jersey Transit abandoned some of the poorer areas of Jersey City. We've done 2.5 million rides in the last 4 years, just to put in perspective. It is, bar none, the most successful one in the country. The largest bike share program we started. We're in the ferry business because we couldn't find an operator. It's a terrible thing, but we're in the business. The first ones to do Vision Zero, which is driving traffic-related fatalities down to zero. We're the first city in the country to accomplish it. We implemented in 2018. The governor just did it this year in the budget, is trying to do it. Like I said, we do a lot of things early and push in accomplishments. The largest infrastructure project in the state of New Jersey right now is something that's happening in Jersey City, in Hudson County, actually. You all pay for it, actually. It's the turnpike widening over the extension on 14A, B, and C. Now that project is roughly $12 billion, okay? It's with a B, okay? It's a big project. It was originally touted as a way to alleviate the traffic going into the Holland Tunnel, because it gets very congested there in the morning. And it does get congested there in the morning. I live right by. And I've been opposed to it from the beginning because if you take a step back and you think about it practically, it doesn't matter if you increase it to 25 lanes. The Holland Tunnel is still 2 lanes, right? So you're still coming into this bottleneck ultimately. It's not going to change. And so I talk all the time, and one of the first things I will do, and I'm totally incapable of doing it as the governor, is I would reallocate those dollars towards light rail expansion, particularly the Bergen and the Camden-Gloucester lines. Those two things are really vital, and the dollars will match that you could actually solve that right out of the gate. Third, I would tell you that the privatization of New Jersey Transit buses is a huge problem. Okay, so about 20 years ago, they started to contract out these buses to private vendors. And that's a problem because most times, well, all the time, transportation, with government operates transportation, it doesn't make money. It's kind of understood. It's not a money maker. It's a money loser, actually. But it's okay because you get quality of life, you get mobility, you get economic development, you get all these other things. But it's not a business to make money. That's not what government does. But when New Jersey Transit contracts that out to a private operator, a private corporation has a different responsibility, right? They bid it because they're trying to make money. And if a route has problems, right, then what do? They try their best to figure out how to still make money with a tougher ridership or less ridership. So maybe they clean the buses less. Maybe they lengthen the time between pickups so it's a little bit less reliable. Maybe maintenance isn't as good, or cleanliness, as I said. So those things impact how you feel about the bus service, which ultimately will impact you not wanting to be a part of it. With President Trump cutting Medicaid, potentially Social Security, all these things at risk, the thing that I talk about that's different than any of the other candidates, everybody gets up and says, we're going to fight Trump, we're going to fight, you've seen the commercials. And it doesn't mean much if you're not really talking about actionable steps that you're going to do, okay? There's a couple of things that you can do that are different. The first is that you have an attorney general today that has been at the forefront of litigation against the president, nationally recognized. I stand alone. He's not my friend. Most of the attorney generals are appointed by the governor, and they're friends of the governor, somebody the governor feels comfortable with. I don't know Matt Blackman particularly well, but I would give him the opportunity to stay because continuity from a litigation standpoint in this moment is very, very important to the state of New Jersey. And secondly, the governor deserves credit. When he came into office, there was a surplus of $500 million. It's a very small surplus relative to the size of the budget. And one of the things that Governor Murphy has done well is he's grown that surplus to $6 billion. He deserves credit for it. When Chris Christie, if you remember, we had credit rating downgrades almost every year because that surplus got smaller and smaller, and Governor Murphy has grown that. It's a good thing. However, in this moment in time where you have vulnerable communities and dollars at risk, and often it's life and death for some certain people, some people rely on Medicaid, and that it's a difference of whether literally surviving or not surviving. And what I talk about is that the responsible thing as a governor to do would be to draw down on that surplus. You don't need it to get it to $500 million, but you should offset some of the losses of Medicaid to the most vulnerable communities to make sure that these people can live and survive in this point in time. A year and a half ago, as we started thinking about change in this election, I said, you know what, I am going to try and help people down ballot that have had obstacles to get elected, whether the county bosses didn't want them or they didn't have money. I figured I'm already doing things to help publicize myself. I'm already doing mail, not as much as Sean Spiller, but I am doing mail. I'm going to do TV. You probably see my commercial. It doesn't cost me anything to add them into this. And I figured if we could find good candidates throughout New Jersey, why not help them? That's what I thought. So we did this whole thing, apply online. We publicized it. 150 people applied from across New Jersey. And really good people. And then we set up these committees in each county of activists, people that you probably know, and said, why don't you screen these candidates? I didn't do it because I didn't want to perceive as kind of a conflict. So we had these activists screen them, and then they would tell me these are good people that you should ask to run with you. I said, okay. Now why is it important for you? Okay? Let's say you love your candidates in the assembly. Okay? Let's say you love whoever you have there. The reality is that if they don't think that they answer to you, there is a problem. Primaries are healthy. They create better candidates, better policy, better general election candidates. If you don't believe me, ask yourself why last year did the legislature down in Trenton change OPRA, public records access, and the year before that campaign finance reform. And thousands of people from throughout New Jersey went down there and said, this is bad things to do. This is bad legislation. And yet Trenton did it. Why? Because they don't feel like there were repercussions if they voted the way that the county boss told them to. If they thought they would lose an election, I promise you they would not have voted that way. So primaries create accountability. And that's what's important to changing the culture in Trenton, because people have to realize that they answer to you. On the school funding formula, okay, it drives your property taxes in a big way. The most important thing that I would like to change on that is how you fund special education. The special education component today is municipality by municipality, and if you don't offer the services, you have to pay the other municipality in order to compensate for that kid to get the necessary resources, which is good, but it's very expensive. It is a huge driver on how your property taxes work. Okay? And I think that we should absorb that in the state from a comprehensive standpoint as it relates to thinking about special education funded by the state, not the municipalities. It'll drive down your property taxes and deliver a better product ultimately. I would also tell you that there's two parts to our education platform. If you were to look at it, it focuses on early childhood development, which I think Phil has done a good job. We would continue to expand the universal pre-K program in phases because you got to make sure it's cost effective. And the second part is particularly around higher education, where you do need some consolidation. And I talk a lot about how we're going to change the funding situation for that. On consolidation, which is another part of your question, but it is a big part of our platform on how do you force consolidation. And the way to force consolidation to me is you make it more difficult for mayors to be able to go to the bond market. So today when the schools and most of your municipalities have to go raise capital or bond for something, it goes to a referendum. When mayors do it, they don't. Creating more checks and accountability in that will force leverage from the state to force accountability.
Why are you better poised than Mikey Sherrill or Mayor Baraka to beat the Republican nominee in November?
I believe that if you select a moderate, okay, somebody close to the middle, okay, because the knee-jerk reaction is that that's the right thing to do in this climate, we will lose. Okay, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. Okay, as a starting point, moderates that are in this, pure moderates. So let's put Mikey, Josh, and Sweeney. Okay, aren't articulating any sort of vision that inspires the base to be willing to come out, okay? And that is an important part, because when they say, I'm not going to engage in the transgender community issues or the immigrant issues because I think it's a bridge too far, right? What that ultimately says is that you are willing to sacrifice me to those communities, and that will cost you ultimately long term, okay? So that's number one. Number two is, I think that there's a difference of opinion between some of these candidates, me in particular between them, you referenced the two, whereas they believe that you could grow the Democratic base, saying 800,000 people didn't vote before, you grow the Democratic base and will be successful in November, okay? That's their theory, and I think that is a wrong theory. You need to be able to move independents and Republicans to your view of what the world or the state will look like. If you cannot do that, you have no chance of success. You need to be able to do it while not sacrificing the base of the party and still articulating, which is a difficult thing to do. There's only one candidate, only one that is invited, with all of us are invited, but there's only one that goes consistently into the Republican chambers of commerce, on the Republican talk shows, on the radio shows, the big ones. It's me, and I'll have the same, you could Google all of it, the same conversation about the immigrants or the transgender or these touch points in the Republican rooms that I'll say in the Democratic rooms, because I know that I could speak to it and move people. I know that. This election is not going to be a referendum on Donald Trump in November. It's not. He's going to loom large for the Democratic base, for sure, and we need to get people out in our base, like I said earlier, but those people are with us. Those people that despise him, as you may feel, as I feel, they're with us. They're coming out to vote. You need to be able to move independents and Republicans, people that probably voted for him in November, okay, last November, because New Jersey had a lot of people that voted for him. So I say the following. When Jack Ciattarelli, who will be a hard candidate to beat for anybody, okay, what is the most dangerous thing that he's going to say about a Democrat? He's going to say, this person is 4 more years of Phil Murphy. That's the one sentence he's going to say. And in the Democratic room, that's okay. But to independents and Republicans, he's going to say, you like your energy prices? It's 4 more years of Phil Murphy. You like your home prices? 4 more years of Phil Murphy. You like no more transportation in South Jersey? 4 more years of Phil Murphy. And I'm telling you, that is a deadly thing to say. And if you are the Democratic institutional candidate, you can't walk away from that. It is impossible to walk away from, okay? And if you are defending that, you are going to lose, okay? I would suggest to you there's one candidate, and only me, that's in that lane, that it would be impossible to say that it's 4 more years of Phil Murphy, because we're fighting them ultimately. Our whole campaign is about change.
Vote for Steve on June 10th. He's working for all of us.